Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch for a detailed look at your Colorado weather forecast. Meteorologist Chris Bianchi, and all eyes on that big windstorm for your day tomorrow. I'll have more on that in the next few moments, but kind of start things off with this nice view. I like this one from the Rocky Mountain National Park Alpine Visitor Center. You got that snow, and we're going to be adding a little bit of snow to this shot. Once we get into tomorrow morning, we'll see a little bit of snow up this way. Nothing too crazy in our northern mountains. The southern part of the state, though, we're going to see some pretty decent snow out there. Now, the story, at least right now, a couple things. One, it's really kind of on the dry side, and two, it's certainly on the warm side. Look at this for you, Denver. 66 degrees on December the 14th. Our average high for today, 44. So we're just 4 degrees off of our record high in Denver. I don't think we're going to get quite there. I don't think so. Our record high for today, 70 degrees. That was set back in 2010. Don't think we get quite there, but you know what? This is as of noon, so we may add another degree or two to that 66. Eastern Plains for our friends out here. Burlington, 63. Ray at 54. Sterling, still a little bit on the cool side. Still got some low cloudiness up that way, so 43 degrees. For our friends in the northeastern corner, up I-76 out there. Forecast eyes for today, Denver. Yeah, sorry, we'll admit it. Didn't quite get there. It was 61 was a forecast high. We're going to obviously be above that. 74 for us in Lamar, though. 62 Trinidad, and 68 out into Akron. All right, that is the current, and today's a calm day. But tomorrow, and I really want to emphasize this here, folks, tomorrow's the big day weather-wise. I'll step back out for a quick second, but I really want to kind of look at you and emphasize that this is not going to be just an average blustery day for your day tomorrow. And this is the time of year that we expect wind in Colorado. It's our windy time of year. And so for us to get wind is not that unusual. But what we're looking at tomorrow, we could be looking at our strongest windstorm in a couple of years here, folks. So this is a pretty real deal sort of situation. And I know you've got all those holiday ornaments out there. We've got some lights at our house. My fiance and I, we got lights. We've even got a couple of things outside. Folks, bring that inside. I did it with my fiance this morning. We brought inside, well, she came inside, but we brought inside our patio furniture. We brought inside all those kind of loose objects outside and brought those in, because tomorrow, again, we're going to be talking about a very serious wind threat for us in and around the Front Range, especially the western half of the urban corridor, and then also the southeastern corner of Colorado is going to be looking at exceptionally strong winds and also very high fire danger out that way. And I know we got that brush fire already burning in Douglas County, so that may be, unfortunately, the tip of the iceberg with this storm. Very high fire danger in southeastern Colorado. We're going to be looking, I think, in that part of the state in southeastern Colorado. So La Junta, Springfield, Lamar. That we could be looking at our strongest winds that we've seen here in 5-10 years. So just keep that in mind. And tie down those loose outdoor objects, obviously. Bring those inside. And I'm going to have a few more tips for you in just a second. But let's kind of start things out by taking a look at the actual forecast. We have a high wind warning for the entire eastern half of the state of Colorado. So this is really kind of from the Continental Divide on east. We've got that high wind warning that includes us in Denver, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, and in Pueblo. And also, by the way, for South Park, I think I would probably not plan on being able to drive there on Fairplay and 285 for tomorrow, especially during the morning hours. And also Highway 24 there, west of Colorado Springs, Woodland Park, and on south into the St. Louis Valley. Those winds will be very, very strong for your day tomorrow with some gusts up to 90 miles an hour. Folks, a couple spots probably clock in at 100. Those usual really, really windy spots, but those winds are going to be absolutely ripping tomorrow. So just prepare for now. Again, not just a blustery day. This is going to be I know we've had a lot of wind so far this fall. This is going to be stronger than any of those days we've seen so far this fall. And I'm not trying to scare or anything like that. I just want you to be aware of it. And another thing, this is a little anecdotal, and this is a slight aside, is I feel that wind doesn't get the attention that, say, if this was 6 to 12 inches of snow or 2 to 3 inches worth of rain, really strong storms, a lot of people would be like, whoa, that's a big deal, right? In my opinion, this doesn't get the attention or the hype, not hype, let's just say there's a bit of a less of a sexy factor to strong winds than there is to, say, snow or to strong rain, right? To heavy rain or thunderstorms. So take this seriously is my point. Again, I know it's not quite as sexy as a snowstorm or as a really strong thunderstorm threat or a flood threat or anything like that. This is the real deal here, folks. So please pay attention. These winds, you'll notice them. You'll be hopefully thanking me tomorrow when you're saying, whoa, 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 those winds are really, really strong. Yeah. it's going to be that kind of day as we get into your midday hours or so tomorrow. Let's kind of time this out for you as well and kind of detail when you can expect those really strong winds. Southwest Colorado for friends in the San Juans, the San Luis Valley, even on north into the Gunnison Valley. I think those winds will be pretty strong and at their strongest tomorrow morning. Rest of the state and that entire high wind warning, continental divide on east, those strongest winds will be probably late morning throughout mid-afternoon. So we're talking 9, 10 a.m. till about 3 or 4 o'clock is when those strongest winds will be in place for us in Denver, the southeastern corner of Colorado, maybe a tick earlier in southeastern Colorado, but Denver and the western side of the urban corridor, those winds will be strongest for us probably from about 10 to about 4 or so tomorrow. Southeastern Colorado, 9 to 3, 9 to 4 kind of deal for us. So maybe a tick earlier in southeast Colorado, Denver, and again, the west side of the metro area, probably a little bit later than that. But those winds will be howling out there by 4 o'clock tomorrow. A bit of good news with this is that these winds will last 5-6 hours at their strongest. But the, I guess, bit of good news is the system's pretty fast moving, so it's going to kind of zip on out of here pretty quickly. And by the time the sun sets tomorrow, those worst winds should be over and done with. So by 6 o'clock tomorrow, most of us should be done with the worst of the winds. So it's a fairly quick thing, but it's a real thing. I mean, take a look at these winds as we get into noon tomorrow. I mean, folks, look at that in Denver. Even downtown, we're talking about those winds potentially in the 60 to 70 mile an hour range. Arvada, Golden, Evergreen, Boulder, Longmont, 70 plus mile an hour winds. And folks, this is probably the very kind of front end of those strongest winds. Probably they'll max out somewhere around 1, 2, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So those winds howling out there already about noon tomorrow, and then by, again, 5 o'clock tomorrow, notice those winds still kind of cranking into the foothills. Again, I think 1, 2, 3 o'clock, that's when we'll see those winds potentially getting into the 80 to 90 mile an hour range, especially just to the west of Denver. So again, just trying to emphasize the fact that these winds will be very strong. By the way, Thursday will keep the high fire danger around, but those winds won't be nearly as bad as what we're expecting for your day tomorrow. So a couple things to keep in mind. How do you prepare for strong winds? I've been blabbing for a little while now about how the winds are going to be really strong. You get it, right? So what do? So you bring inside those holiday ornaments. I know that is devastating for the inflatable Santa that you love. You don't want to take that down. It probably took you 2 to 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon to put up inflatable Santa. Bring inside inflatable Santa unless you want Santa to be about 50 miles east of us. Now, don't drive a high-profile vehicle for your day tomorrow either. That would be fairly obvious. Those kind of, I keep forgetting the word because my best friend actually has one of those huge camper vans, those, I forget the word for them, but those big vans that are kind of in right now. But don't drive those around. Don't drive those huge high-profile vehicles. You don't. Those could easily get blown on over. Semis, obviously, will not be a good idea tomorrow, especially on the west side of the metro area. And by the way, I'd anticipate some road closures because of these strong winds, unfortunately, that possibility for overturned semis because those winds will be so strong. And then finally, charge those phones in case you lose power. Again, Boulder, Arvada, Golden, I'm really looking at you. That's where those winds will be really on the strong side, and those power outages will be more than isolated. They'll probably be fairly widespread if those winds do pan out to be in the 80 to 90 mile an hour range. So again, Boulder, Golden, Arvada, Evergreen, that's where you're going to be looking at those winds really just cranking on up, and that's where, again, you've got that highest risk for power outages. So charge up those phones in case you do lose power. And in fact, I know that Boulder County Emergency Management already preparing for that possibility for some power outages for your day tomorrow as well. So just emphasizing that. Now, I haven't mentioned this at all yet. There is the chance for a rain or snow shower early in the morning for your day tomorrow in Denver. Those winds will be the story, though. Again, I'm trying to overlook the rain and the snow a little bit intentionally. I want to drum across to you and get the whole it's going to be really windy thing across to you first and then get into the rain and snow chances. But it won't be a big deal for us in Denver. The rain and snow, don't worry about it too much. The story is the wind. Temperatures up to about 50 degrees. Probably won't notice it because it can be so darn windy. So don't pay attention to the wind or the rain or snow or the temperature. The story will be the wind, no doubt about it. Now, western Colorado, this is good news. This is the part of the state, well, the entire state needs moisture, and we're going to get a pretty meaningful amount of rain and snow into parts of central and western Colorado. Rain only really for those lowest elevations, so Grand Junction, the western slope, maybe at the valley floor there in Gunnison, a little bit of light rain or something. But for most of us here, we're going to be looking in that teal shading, a little bit less of that snowfall, but in the red, that's where we got those winter storm warnings. And that's where the San Juans could be potentially looking at as much as 16 inches worth of snowfall from the storm system. So that's great news. It's going to be wind whipped. You probably won't be able to measure it all that well, but we're going to get some meaningful snowfall into parts of the state that need it. And by the way, there will be a high avalanche risk for us into especially southwest Colorado for your day tomorrow. So backcountry skiers, tomorrow's not the day to go out there because it's going to be pretty nasty. And you probably, do you really want to be out there if it's 70-mile-an-hour winds and you just can't see anything? I don't think so, but can't ever rule that out. Meantime, early tomorrow morning, western kind of third of the state, so the western San Juans, really the West Elks on east here into the Sawatch Mountains, even the Wet Mountains and the Sangre de Cristo seeing some of that snowfall. On up into the I-70 mountains, seeing a little bit of that snow. You kind of see yours more a little later into the day. Another thing to point out with the snow as well, it's going to be fairly short-lived. I mentioned earlier on this is going to be a fast-moving storm system, so that snow is going to be coming down. It's a pretty intense storm system, though, as well. San Francisco saw 3 inches rain from this yesterday, the same storm system. So it's a pretty intense one. Point being, that snow is going to be coming down fast and furiously at times. So if you have plans, for example, to use Monarch Pass, Red Mountain Pass, again, those areas here into southwestern Colorado, that travel, especially pre-dawn tomorrow, is going to be absolutely nasty. It's going to be nearly impossible because you got those strong winds and you got that heavy snow. That snow will be coming down 2 to 3 inches an hour at times for us into southwestern Colorado. That pushes east pretty quickly. Again, fast-moving system. By 11:30, look at this. We just got a few leftover snow squalls in place. But tomorrow midday, late morning, that snow will be heavy at times. You head west of Denver on I-70, so Eisenhower Tunnel, Vale Pass, even on up by Berthoud Pass and Rabbit Ears could be a little bit on the tricky side on Highway 40 as well as I-70 for your day tomorrow. Then a little weak system arrives for your Friday, a bit more snow from that, but no big deal from that secondary system. All eyes here on the first one, where we could see some pretty decent snowfall totals in the southwestern Colorado in particular. Then that secondary system leaves a bit more snow. So some fresh patter. We need the snowpack. We're putting a dent into some of those snowpack deficits across the state. So good news on that end. The bad news, obviously, all eyes on the wind. It is going to be nasty. It is going to be bad. I think I've emphasized that enough. So hopefully I've gotten the point across to you at this point, and I do apologize for the rambling on that part, but I just really want to make sure that you know about that. In the meantime, that 7-day forecast looks like this. We are going to be looking at quite a bit in the way of that snowfall, and so, or quite a bit in the way of that wind, so hopefully that gets that across. So I'm going to go through some of your comments here, by the way. I'm always happy to take those for you, and Dexter has a good one. Appreciate this question. How do you think our winter is going to be this season? Above normal, below normal, based on the current situations this far? Appreciate that question. By the way, thanks for watching. Thanks to all of you, including Chris and Kate, for emphasizing this, or for writing in. Again, just really want to emphasize the point that this is a really bad wind event for your day tomorrow. Just prepare for it. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's not as bad. Hopefully we're talking 60, 70-mile-an-hour winds. It's really windy, but it's not destructive. We're not talking about power outages or widespread things, but unfortunately I do think it's going to be as bad as what I was just saying. So again, I hope I thread that needle, not completely scaring you, but also alerting you to that fact. So to answer your question here, Dexter, about the upcoming winter and what we're expecting, well, we've only seen 0.3 inches worth of snowfall so far this winter here in Denver. Statewide, we're about 3/4, about 75% of our season-to-date snowpack, so we do need the snow. I would say that this storm system now should get us into the 80-85% of normal range. It's hard to really project too far beyond that, but the traditional things that we're looking at, La Nina, coupled with what we've seen so far this winter, coupled with the fact that it's been really warm, tells us that more likely than not, we are going to be looking at a below normal winter in terms of snowfall and also a warmer than average winter. That's a general trend, and probably that trend will be a bit more likely to take place in southern Colorado. Normally in a La Nina winter, the northern mountains do pretty okay. So say the Medicine Bow Range, the Parks, the Elkhead Mountains. Those mountains tend to do fairly okay, 80, 90, maybe even 100% of average, but normally it's the southern mountains that tend to suffer the most when we have a La Nina winter. Now, there's exceptions to that rule. We've had La Nina winters where you've seen a lot of snow in southern Colorado. We've had La Nina winters where Denver's seen a lot of snow. Because we're talking about specific places, we look at, this is a broad brush trend that also, by the way, even if we have a below average winter, in Denver, we can still get a major snowstorm. We could have a foot snowstorm in, say, February or March or April during our peak snowy months here in the Denver area. We could still see a foot, 16 inches, 18 inches of snow. Denver, we average almost 60 inches of snow in a winter. So you can have a couple of foot-plus snowstorms in there and still have a below-average winter. So that doesn't, hopefully you don't remember this and say, hey, Chris, say February, March, we're going to get a foot of snow. And you go, hey, Chris, I thought you said this is going to be a below-average winter. Yeah, we can still have a below-average winter, and we can also still have snowstorms in there. So don't necessarily think that because we haven't seen anything so far this winter, which is very, very unusual, that doesn't mean we're not going to see any sort of winter here in Denver or throughout the state. That still is possible. But hopefully that explains your question there, Dexter. It does, unfortunately, trend drier and not as great as usual. So that hopefully answers your question for you. And by the way, thanks for joining on in. Hopefully I've emphasized that wind threat for you for your day tomorrow. Take care, have a good one, and we'll see you coming up at 9 News at 4.